I start with the first part. The two main roads to open access. Okay, so maybe you already know it, but there are two main roads that we usually present when we talk about the concrete ways to make open access, to give open access to your publications, for instance, your academic publications. In the green way, there is the authors self-archive their works in open repositories. So maybe you know some of them, such HAL, HAL in France. So it's an public open repository where there is a version of the article that is archived by the authors and that is in open access. But for the other part of the publication process, everything is usual. You publish your paper in any journal, in any subscription journal, and at the end, you may deposit in some open repository. Sometimes there is a law to allow you to do that. Sometimes it's not the law, it's just the rules of the publisher itself that allow you to self-archive some version of your article, of your paper in some open repository. Okay, so this is the green way. Then there are the gold way that we are going to focus on today. It means that you publish originally in open access. So it needs you to publish in an open access journals, a full open access journals, or in a subscription journal that will ask you to pay for having the article in open access. In most cases, you have to pay the journal, the publisher, to have your article in open access. When I say you, I mean your institution or maybe your research team or your laboratory that have to pay what we call APC, article processing charges. So you or the institution pays for open access, but for the public, of course, for anyone, any reader, your article is in open access. Originally on the publisher's platform, on the journal's platform. And eventually, at the final step, you may self-archive it in some open repository, but it's not essential to this to the gold way. The gold way needs you to publish in open access. At the end, we have different versions. Usually in the green way, meaning in the open repositories, you may find the postprint or the preprint, and sometimes the publisher's version. The postprint. The preprint, I start with the preprint. Maybe you already know what a preprint is. The preprint is the first manuscript of your article, which is not peer-reviewed yet, or it may have been peer-reviewed and rejected. But in any case, it's not published. So the preprint is considered as not peer-reviewed. But there are some options to spread a preprint in open access. You may have heard of Archive, for instance. Archive is the first open repository of the history. People created it in the 90s. It was dedicated to specific scientific field, such as physics, computer science, and mathematics. So on Archive, since the 90s, some researchers, many researchers, self-archive their preprints in order to fasten its diffusion to colleagues around the world. It means that you don't have to, or you may publish it afterward, but you don't have to publish it to share it with your colleagues all over the world. So this is the preprint diffusion through open repositories such as Archive, XIV, and the other ones, more recent, such as bioRxiv, medRxiv, or paleoRxiv. You have many preprint open repositories in different fields since 10 years or more that followed the model of archive. But with the preprint, you may also do some open access that looks like a publication, that tends to join the publication process. For instance, there is this initiative that is called Peer Community In, a French initiative, but international now, that offers you to recommend your preprint. So I remind you, the preprint is usually not peer-reviewed, and Peer Community In offers you to recommend it, but not necessarily to publish it in a usual journal on some usual publisher platform. So you may see the process on this slide. First, your preprint is on some open repository, such as arXiv, bioRxiv, paleoRxiv, okay? Then a PCI organizes its peer review. So you have many PCI in different sub-scientific fields. So there are many PCI in different fields of biology. There are also some PCI in ecology. There is one in archaeology. So there are many PCI, but not for every scientific field, okay? So you need to contact the PCI that is appropriate to your work, to your field. This PCI may organize the peer review of your preprint. Then it may recommend your preprint. It means that you have a recommendation. It's not published by some journal, but there is a recommendation that says, okay, some colleagues, some peers, some other scientists of this field have reviewed it, and validated it. Okay. So at the end, you can just broadcast your preprint with this recommendation that make it more valuable than usual preprint. It's a recommended preprint. Or you can also publish it. On the PCI website, you can find the different options you have when your preprint has been recommended by PCI. So you may publish it in a PCI journals. You may publish it in a PCI-friendly journal. It means a journal that recognizes the PCI process, that recognizes that some PCI has peer-reviewed your article, and that accept the publication of this recommended preprint. Or you can also publish it in some other journals and make clear with them if they accept or not the PCI recommendation as a full peer review. But you can imagine that it's interesting for the publishers, since they don't have to organize a second peer review. Your paper has already been peer reviewed by a PCI. Okay, so this is an option with the preprint. Preprint are not only not peer-reviewed manuscript. You may also do open access, peer-reviewed open access with the preprint, with initiatives such as the Peer Community In. Okay. So secondly, you have the postprint, which is different. The postprint has been peer-reviewed by the peers summoned by the publisher. So it's the classic process. But in the postprint version, you don't have the layout of the publisher, of the journal. You don't have the logo of the publisher, and you don't have basically, it's not the beautiful version you may find in the journal eventually. It's the last version the authors sent, the last version sent by the authors to the publisher for publication. So to self-archive a preprint, a postprint, sorry, to self-archive a postprint, you need to keep this version on your computer or with you, because many researchers, as you can imagine, do not keep their postprint. They send it to the publisher, then they delete it or they lost it anyway, and the unique version of the article is the publisher version on the publisher's journal. So if you want to self-archive your postprint, if you have to, since there are many forms of compulsory open access, and as you may know, with many fundings now from Europe, from Horizon Europe, or from the funding agencies united in the Coalition S. Maybe you heard about the Plan S. It was the previous training in this program, in the 4U Plus program. So in many cases, you have to do open access. You have to ensure some open access to your final paper. So in these cases, it's important for you to keep the postprint to eventually archive it in some open repository and to ensure open access to the papers that resulted from the research project that has been funded. Okay, so I hope it's clear. You may ask questions if this postprint version is not clear for you. And eventually, the postprint is archived in some open repositories. So at first, I only gave the example of HAL since it's the French open repository, but there are many others. In Milan, there is Pleiadi, but a bit later, Stefano will talk more about the institutional open repositories. For medical research, for biomedical research, there is a very important one that is PMC, PubMed Central. It's the open repository of PubMed. And if you need to know what the rules of the publishers are regarding self-archiving, you can check the Sherpa Romeo website. You will be able to check journal per journal for any individual journal, what are the conditions of the publisher for archiving postprint or preprint or even the publisher version. Okay, then there is gold open access. So gold open access is when you publish in open access. So I think this is clear. So in this case, you have to pay article processing charges. Okay, usually you pay. We will see that there is also a diamond open access when the journals are supported by public fundings, and in this case, authors do not pay article processing charges, but in most cases, in the private journals, you have to pay APCs. Okay. There are two types of open access journals. The first category that we call full open access journals, meaning that they only fund themselves by APC, and they do not do subscriptions, meaning that the journals, the full open access journal, are in open access for everyone. Every articles of these journals are in open access, but the money comes from comes only from authors who pays APCs. Okay. And the second category is the one we call hybrid journals. So in the hybrid journals, there are subscriptions. Okay, many articles of the journals are under subscriptions, meaning they are under paywalls, and sometimes some articles are in open access because the authors paid for it. Okay, they paid APCs. So in this table, you have the different cases. For instance, journals of the Nature publishing groups are hybrid journals. So actually, currently, Nature itself, the original Nature, is hybrid journals. And this table is from 2018, but nowadays you have to pay more to publish in Nature in open access. You have to pay around 10,000 euros. So it's very, very expensive. It's the most expensive. And you have also a group such as PLOS, Public Library of Science. Maybe you heard about it, especially if you work in biology or these fields. In the PLOS group is only open access, only full open access journals. There are many journals and several journals at least. And APC may range from 1,600 to 3,000 euros. So these are two examples. And eventually, there is something you may be aware of when you do gold open access. You have to be careful with what we call predatory publishers. Maybe you already know what a predatory publisher is. It's a fake scientific publisher, a fake academic journal, maybe a publisher or journal. It means that they do not organize peer review. They are not actual academic journals. So usually they mail scholars of all ages. It can be young master students or even professors. They offer you to publish on their platforms since they are only online publishers or journals. They may target the wealthiest research fields such as biomedicine, but they also target the humanities. And they spread a distorted version of open access, since when you know that predatory publishers exist, you may think that, okay, open access is not peer-reviewed, is not very reliable. And as you know now, it's not true. Predatory publishers are an exception, just minor publishers that take advantage of this situation to have you published on their platforms and pay for it, of course. So, for instance, the Omics group is very known as being a predatory publisher. Okay, now it's your part, Stefano.
So what APC means, as Sébastien pointed out, it's money. Okay, it's article processing charges and definitely a fee. Is how much a researcher has to pay to a journal to make his article, her article, open access. As we said, the price of APC, the cost of gold can be very high, and there is a wide range of prices journals apply to articles to make them open access. They can start from a few hundreds of euros until thousands of euros for a single article. Who pays? As we say that researchers can pay for APC, or institutions can pay, but there are some few situations in which a journal can offer to make an article open access. For example, when the editorial team invite a researcher to publish on a specific topic, or when a researcher can have some discount, and there are very different kinds of discounts a journal offer, sometimes based on the geographical affiliation of the researcher. If they came from poor regions of the world, some journals apply discounts or make article open for free. Or journals can give credits, for example, for the review works. If a researcher has been a reviewer for that publisher, then he typically has not been paid money for the job, but can have credit he can use when he's an author and submit here his or her articles. The normal situation, maybe the most frequent situation, is when an article comes from a project that has a funder, and often there are specific terms funders apply on their projects, and the researchers have to publish their results. So, as Sébastien said, very often funders specify that they want the results are open, and there are in the projects sometimes dedicated funds to publish in open access. It's very important, if it's your situation, to check terms, times, and what you have to do to use properly these funds, and to use a tool. Sometimes you have the possibility to choose between green and gold roads for your results, for your articles. There's the third situation we are talking about is when the institution pays for articles being published in open access. A researcher can use research fundings. For example, if he has he or her personal funds, or if the researcher is in a research group, there could be research group funds, or departments can pay for publishing articles. Sometimes there are dedicated funds for open access publishing. For example, in the University of Milan, there is an open access fund. There are specific terms to apply. For example, in University of Milan, hybrid gold open access is avoided. You can't be funded if you choose an hybrid journal. And of course, you have some procedures, so you have to apply, and could be times when you have to have you make your application. For example, you have to ask for funding, so when your paper has been accepted and not before. There are and there could be specific agreements with publishers that the institution make to publish, only to publish articles, or read and publish. The institutions make agreements on journals to save money. So there are very different kinds of agreements, but you should check if your institution have one of these agreements, because you could use them to cover your APCs. If you choose a hybrid journal, you should remember the green option, because is a effective form of open access, and it save your money and save your institution money. Remember that in a hybrid situation, you are paying to make open access your article, but institutions are paying a subscription to read the other part of the journal. When you make the green open access, the subscription is still paid, but no money are spent for your article. And this is another point to focus on the importance of saving the post-print. That is the version of your work more similar to the final version, and so the open access of the post-print should be the first choice of green open access. If you can choose between the preprint and post-print, and you have the post-print, you should make that version open access. And if you have one institutional repository, use always it to make open access your post-print or preprint, because this is important for you, for your career, and for your institution too. But when you don't have the post-print, or you are in a situation, for example, your contract with the publisher avoid the possibility to use the post-print, remember that preprint is is a version you can decide to make open access. That is particularly important when you publish, for example, a book part or a book, or because for journals you quite always have a post-print, but when you don't have it, remember that you can use the preprint. There is a small number of journals that do not allow you to put the preprint on open repositories, but remember that this has to be stated somewhere, particularly in your contract. So it's very important to read the publishing contract before signing it, and remember you can say a word to the publisher. You have not to accept everything the publisher say in the contract, but you can try to change something to have a version you can make open access. So now we talk about Diamond Open Access, and that's the moment where the profit, the money, comes out of the publishing project for the most part. Because the question is, does the gold road publish always cost? And the answer is no. So we can say that Diamond is the true gold. Is a publishing situation where authors and readers do not pay for publishing. And so that makes Diamond a very valuable form of gold open access. As I said, the profit comes out of the process, and the focus is on the content, on the quality of the content, and the Diamond publishing is oriented to dissemination of your results and reuse of your results. Maybe is what you want from your articles. Well, we say the most part because, of course, someone is paying Diamond, and in particular, Diamond open access is made with in-kind support and or donated labor. Often people who work in Diamond journals is people that work as part of his job or that gives sometimes for this activity. But there is support from institutions that sometimes believe in this form of publication as alternative to commercial publication. For example, in our university, we have Diamond University Press. And sometimes grants tied to projects can be used to manage Diamond project, publishing projects. Advertising can be used to cover some expenses. And of course, all the above can be mixed in a particular situation of Diamond publishing. So, conclusions. The first one is don't pay at all if you can. Try to find a Diamond journal or make the Green Road, give the Green Road a chance. If you have to pay, avoid hybrid for the reason we said, because it's a mixed situation in which researchers and institutions pay at least 2 times. But if you pay whenever your journal you pay for quality. So avoid predatory publishers. Use all the tools you have. You can see in this slide the 2 directories of open access journals and open access books, where you can find reliable journals and book publishers, both Diamond and Gold and Full Gold, where you can publish your research, and other tools that you can use to find a publisher, a journal that looks at the quality of the content before to the profit. And so thank you very much. There's the last part on free licenses. Sébastien, I give you the word.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefano. So the last part, it will be quick. It's about free licenses. So to share your work, you may use them on the published article, the publisher version, with the agreement of the publisher, of course. You may use them on the self-archived version, post-print or preprint. And you may have to use them if you are funded by some funding agency of Coalition S, so with the Plan S, since the Plan S make it compulsory to use a free license. The CC BY, it makes it compulsory to use the CC BY license. I'm going to explain you what are these licenses. So, here we present the Creative Commons licenses, but there are some other ones that are maybe called free licenses, meaning that they allow some uses of your work. So just to tell you the philosophy of free licenses, it means using the author's right, the copyright, not only to forbid uses of your work, but also to allow uses of your work. Means that you use your right as an author to allow people, anyone, maybe to share your work or even to edit it or with some restricted conditions. We are going to see it. So you can check the video Creative Commons if you want to remember all we are going to say right now. But basically, you have different types of conditions that you can mix together. The first one is CC BY, the one that the Plan S make compulsory. So it means that you allow anyone to do anything with your work, maybe your paper, your dataset, some picture, anything. But these persons have to cite your name, to cite the name of the creator of the work, of the dataset, of the paper, of the book, of the picture, anything you want to share. So CC BY, there is only one condition to cite the author. There is also CC0. Maybe you check if it is recognized in your country. In France, it is not really recognized by the law. So it means that you allow anyone to share your work with no condition at all, even no condition of citation of your name. Okay, after CC BY, there is CC BY SA, same attribution. It means that you allow anyone to share your work, to use it, to edit it, to modify it. But there is one condition in not only cite your name, but also the condition to share it in the same terms. It means that you cannot remove the CC BY SA. For instance, if you use a picture you found on the web with CC BY SA, you put it in your work, okay, in your PhD thesis, your PhD dissertation, in some articles you write, okay. But you have to put CC BY SA even on the picture you use in your work, in your text. Okay, you always have to put CC BY SA to always allow anyone to reuse the picture or the work, whatever it is. Okay. Then there are after that there are more conditions that make it a bit less open. NC, when you do not allow commercial uses. So it means that we cannot use your paper or your PowerPoint presentation or your picture in some commercial work, in some commercial book, in some commercial content of any kind. Okay. And there is the ND condition. It means that you do not allow editing, you do not allow modification. Okay, and you can mix all these conditions eventually to allow anything, but the person has to cite your name, cannot do commercial uses of your work, cannot modify your work. You can put these conditions to restrict the uses anyone can do of your work you share. Okay. Okay, so we are done. Maybe we will take your question. We'll try to answer the questions we found in the chat. just to tell you that there are some other For You Plus sessions until June. The three next one are about data management plans in January. The second one in January will be a focus on predatory publishers, identity frauds. So I just talked about predatory publisher for 1 minute, but maybe you want to know more about that. Maybe it could be useful for you to know more about predatory publishers. So come to the session of the 27th of January. And for those of you who work in humanities and social sciences, you may want to know more about open access book, meaning books you publish in open access on the web. And there is for that a session about publication strategies for monographs for book in humanities and social sciences. And there are then 7 further sessions until June or July. Thank you. So we take your question now. Okay, Eleonora, I saw your question about Diamond OA journals that could be famous. I'm afraid I cannot answer that for certain. There are several Diamond OA journals, this is sure. For instance, you can check the DOAG, and you also can check, in the case of PCI, there is in the list of PCI friendly journals, there are many journals that are Diamond OA, meaning funded by institutions, funding by public money. You can check if there are some of them that are maybe not famous, but well known in your scientific field, especially. So I suggest all of you check in your own fields if there are Diamond OA journals that have a little prestige. In France, it's the CC license family which isn't recognized, or just the CC0? Well, it's a tricky question since the CC0 is not recognized, this is for sure. And for the CC license, the Creative Commons licenses, it's not very clear if they are recognized or they are going to be recognized. Since we have to normalize this situation, since the Plan S make it compulsory to put the CC BY license on your paper when you are funded by some agency of the Plan S. So we have to normalize it, but I'm not sure it is fully recognized now. But the CC0 is not recognized, that is for sure, since CC0 is contradictory with the moral right of the author in the French law, and the moral right, which is not the copyright exactly. It's more than that, since the moral right lasts forever, even after the death of some author. It makes it compulsory to cite in any case the author of some work if you use it. So the CC0 goes against this moral right in France. Okay, question about Horizon 2020. I think, yes, the post-print is okay for Horizon 2020. Maybe, Stefano, you want to add something?
No, I know that post-print is okay.
Yeah.
And I think that it doesn't matter where the post-print is. So as every other repository. If you have an institutional repository, is a good place to put your articles. But even a free one like Zenodo is okay for European projects.
Okay, thank you. Have you other questions?
I can add for projects that is the best is to read the terms of the project you are applying or you are in, because that's very important, at least for the timing of that you have to follow to publish, to put your job open access and so on.
To answer the last question, the CC licenses have to be recognized. For instance, if some publisher want you to give you your copyright. It's about the conflict that may occur between the CC license and the copyright that the publisher wants to put on your article. If the CC license is recognized by the law, then it's a real limit to the appropriation by the publisher of your work through copyright. There is a real contradiction that is recognized by the law. Otherwise, if it's not recognized, the publisher has the full right to get your copyright from on the article. Maybe you want to add something, Stefano?
Well, yeah. I agree. You have to both think of your country and the international dissemination of your job. And Creative Commons licenses are a good starting point, and that most used in the world, most used license. But there is a general problem on how you get your work go in the world and being not only read but used by other people. And so the first thing is that you want to be cited if someone uses your work, and then comes or eventually can come other consideration. One of them is, do you want that who cites you and who use your results use them, keeping them open, so you should use or share alike or something like that, and so on. I can start, if you agree, Sébastien, answering the question on the difference of status between preprints and postprints. And in open repositories. Institutional repositories should state it. I can speak for the institutional repository I manage, and I can say that we do. For each file, we give researchers say that is a preprint or a postprint, and then there is people that check the files and change the kind of version that is uploaded. So there is some work to guarantee that if you see a preprint, that is really a preprint. Of course, mistakes can occur, but it is important that who uses a repository can use each version according to the publishing contract. So answer is should be yes, normally. If you want to add something, Sebastian.
Yes, I confirm that on most open repositories, there is a difference between preprint and postprint. On HAL or PubMed Central, PubMed Central does not accept preprint, I think. And on HAL in France, there is a difference. It is said when it is a preprint or a postprint. And the preprint server as you may guess, archive or bioarchive, for instance, are only for preprint. To publish a translation. Do you have an answer to that, Stefano?
I think it is a question on copyright than on licenses or something like that. But I can suggest to check the situation of the original, and of course to check the law situation of the original, and sometimes can be if the original is recent, is recently published. There can be a living author that retains a living publisher that retains the copyright, and you have to contact to understand the situation. If is an old work, maybe it can be free from the publisher perspective, but there can be a living author that retains the rights. So it's very difficult to give a general suggestion. Sometimes it can be, you can ask Taylor and Francis to help in this situation, but they are not, they can say you that you have to make the job. So it's difficult to give a general suggestion.
Yeah, there are two aspects, as Stefano said. Maybe you can check if the rights of the original text are in the public domain, if the author has died before 70 years from now. And the second aspect is maybe when you are going to contact the publisher, is to tell them what use you are going to make of this translation. If it's for research purposes, it may give you the authorization, it may allow you to make a translation. But if there is a commercial perspective, a commercial use, it may be different. You may have to pay something. So make clear the context in which you are going to make this translation to the publisher when you are going to ask what you can do with the original text. There was a question by Archer about the licenses that may be usable in for your paper. So I don't know your country, Archer. In France, there is the licence ouverte, which is a license recognized and created by the French state. And that is recognized for research work to share papers, for instance. I don't know, Stefano, in your country, is there a free license, a national free license?
No, in Italy, Creative Commons are very widely used. And for example, I used by our university press. I think, and I know that there are. They are the most used by international publishers, and that there was also a lot of work to translate them, to adapt to local law situation. I think the best is if you check, maybe for most situation they are usable, and then if they are not, you can choose for other solutions.
Okay, so if it's okay for you, we are going to end the training. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
And have a nice day.
Goodbye.